So today we are going to be looking at the differences between the Sony A6000 and the Canon M50. Let's get right into it. Okay, so starting off is the Sony A6000. Now the only problem is I don't have an M50 to compare it to. So I decided to get the help of my friend Ansel here, who has an M50 that he's been using for quite some time. So let's get on with the comparison. Okay, so first let's start off by talking about the similarities. These cameras both have a 24 megapixel CMOS camera. They both do HD, and this one can do 4K, but it is cropped. They have about the same size sensor, and they have many other similarities, and their autofocus is roughly the same. These cameras also have a very similar size and form factor. The Sony's a little bit shorter, as you can see, but it's also a little bit thicker, so they're basically the same. They also have a roughly the same size battery, although the Sony is a little bit bigger, and they both have a nice quarter 20 on the bottom of the camera. Their port selection is fairly similar. However, the Canon has a mic jack, which is super nice. The Sony does not. So now that we've gone over pretty much kind of the similarities of the cameras, let's get into the difference and have Ansel tell you what he thinks about the Canon M50.
So I bought the Canon M50 3 years ago in 2019, brand new in the box, and I'm gonna let you guys know my major pros with it and my major cons with it. So the first major pro for it is I think it's very good for beginners. I was never really someone who's that serious into, I guess, filmmaking or photography. So to put this thing in auto like I did 3 years ago and just shoot, the image is gonna look great just straight out of box in auto mode. So for beginners like me, like I was 3 years ago, and I still am kind of a beginner, I think it's honestly perfect for anyone just beginning in filmmaking or photography. My second pro to the Canon M50 is its size, and I'll talk about this in a second here as well. But the size of this thing is super small. It's extremely small. Also has that flip out LCD screen for any vloggers out there. But it's just super small in the hand, and you can honestly take it anywhere. I've taken this on many trips in the past. It's just, its size is a great asset to it, and it's extremely small. And my third and last pro to the M50 is its price. I got this for $300 new in the box 3 years ago, which was an absolute steal. I got it on a third-party website. But I got it new for 300 bucks, and I'd say that the price is another pro to this thing. It's very affordable for those just starting out like I was at the time. So it's a very affordable camera, especially now you can find them for like $300, $400 as well. So the price is a very big pro to this camera. The first con, which is in my opinion the reason I'm going to be getting rid of this camera, is its size. And I know I just mentioned that as a pro, but this thing, I mean, I don't really have that big of hands, and it's still very small. I just was using this for like 10 minutes the other day, and my hand for the first time started cramping using this. It was just extremely small, trying to get my hands out of the grip. The grip is very uncomfortable. There's not that much room, and my hands are just kind of all over the buttons here. So the size, I'd say, is the major big con on this thing. For some of you, it might not be, with like smaller hands or maybe more smaller people, but for me, the size is unfortunately a con for me. The second con is the battery life. The battery life on this thing absolutely sucks. I'll be lucky if I get like half an hour out of this thing. They're extremely small, which is a reason why DSLRs might be better for someone like me that just wants longer battery life. But the battery on these is a third-party battery. It's extremely short, and I have trouble just using like a single one. I can't really use a single one if I'm doing a shoot. So the battery life is extremely short on the M50, and that's another con. And the third and final con, in my opinion, this might not be for everyone, but for me personally, is the Efm mount. The Efm mount is relatively new. It's not really as, it hasn't been around for as long as EF mounts. So the lenses for these Efm mounts are extremely expensive. This is just a kit lens, but to buy an Efm like Sigma, for some people like me, they can be extremely expensive, as you get like $600, $700, $800. So the last con for me is going to be the Efm mount, more specifically the price of lenses for this M50.
Okay, now it's time to talk about the Sony A6000. I have used this camera, not a lot, but I have used it quite a bit the last 6 months. And I'm actually quite impressed what this camera can do for the price of it. So starting off, the first pro is the E-mount for sure. This E-mount system is amazing, and you can put some extremely expensive glass on here or some extremely cheap glass. It doesn't really matter. You have tons of varieties And if you want to upgrade your camera, you can upgrade the camera and all your lenses will still work. You can even go to full frame and the lenses will still work. So in my opinion, E-mount for this camera is its biggest plus. Number 2, and that is the quality of this camera. I'm actually quite impressed with the photo quality and video quality compared to Sony's other cameras, which are much more expensive, and compared to other cameras that are not Sony. The third pro I would say is definitely the price. I got this camera for about $200, but that's a very good price considering I got a lens with it and it was almost brand new. You're probably not gonna find a deal like that, but you could probably find them for very inexpensive and very budget friendly. Now, turning over to the cons, this camera definitely has a few. And starting off, I would say the biggest drawback to this camera is the autofocus. It's good and you can work with manual focus and everything, but the autofocus is not the best. So the second con with this camera is it does not have a mic jack. That is kind of a really annoying thing, and you can get some mics for up here, but that's obviously a little bit weird to do that, and you're probably not gonna be compatible with a lot of mics. Okay, and the last con for this A6000 is this back screen. It does not flip up, out, or any way to get that facing you. The only way you can do that is by an external monitor, which adds a lot of money to this setup, and it's just kind of annoying that the screen doesn't just flip out like a Sony A6100 or something like that. Okay, so now that you've seen the pros and cons of both of these cameras, you can see that both of them have pros and cons, and at the end of the day, it's your decision. Whichever camera you get, and if you decide to go with one of these, you're gonna be happy and you're gonna like the camera. It's more of preference on what features you specifically want and need. And any camera you get, if it's more expensive, it's going to do everything for you. If you get a cheaper camera like these, you're gonna learn the actual art of filmmaking instead of having the camera doing everything. So I really strongly advise, if you're brand new to filming, both of these cameras are great options and you will not regret getting either one of these. I will also have some B-roll of these cameras at the end, so you can go check that out. But that is it for the review. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.